sleepyheads, get up, get out of bed, cheer up, the sun is red, live, love, laugh and be happy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Robin Pod, which is of course powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. And it's another special edition with former Hull Kingston Rovers reporter Joe Appleyard joining me to discuss all things Hull KR. Firstly though, let's catch up with friend of the Robin Pod and Leopards owner, Derek Beaumont. How are you doing, Derek?
I'm all right, mate. How are you, pal?
I'm wonderful.
Looking forward to... You're having the right time over there, aren't you, on the red side of the city?
Yeah, of course, mate. And as we record this, it's just been announced, hasn't it, that that lot from across the other side of the city have parted ways with former Hull Kingston Rovers head coach Tony Smith. So I'm sure there'll be many Robins listening and watching this will be revelling in the delight of the demise of the black and whites. And this is another comedy moment, shall we say, that seems to be following Hull FC around at the moment.
Yeah, I just got told off our kid, to be honest. I've not been looking on much socials, but he just said that had happened. So, yeah, tough time for Adam as well. I mean, when you're getting whacked with 50 and, you know, you're trying to talk of a long-term plan and week in, week out, you're getting that and some things that's coming out on Twitter with players and stuff. You do end up, unfortunately, looking in the direction of the coach, don't you? But then you're back to square one with no stability. So it's a tough merry-go-round for him, I think.
Yeah, and I do wonder whether the provisional grade A IMG rating has allowed them that safety net of knowing that they could probably spend under salary cap this season without the
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. A perfect example of why it don't work and why it should just be absolutely chucked out the pram. I mean, I'm praying that London get some wins from somewhere and don't finish bottom, because then we'll be an absolute joke shop if we relegate a team that hasn't finished bottom. And can you imagine if Wakefield didn't win Super League and got put in? Didn't win Championship and got put in. Fev won it or something. It's just absolutely bonkers. And you know, you look at how the whole thing's structured. You know, if you've got a carpet like we've got, great playing surface, I'd argue it's the best in the comp. You know, it's used for FIFA. It's the only FIFA accredited one that I know for the women's. And, you know, we can't get a score because we have a pitch of that quality, because it means that it gets relayed every year. So for 3 weeks, you can't play on it. So you don't get points for it. It's like, it's not rewarding the right things, is it? And then you've got a situation where, based on your geographical status, you can't score on that. You know, that in itself's madness. You should be promoting the game anywhere. You know, you can get fans in PNG, Toronto, so.
Derek, we just lost you there slightly because I think dodgy internet connections. People won't know you're taking time out your holiday to come and appear on the Robin Pod, so it is much appreciated. But obviously, you were saying, you know, ultimately you're not a massive fan of the IMG grading criteria at the moment.
Yeah, there's just too many examples of it that don't work, and I think the LFC one's a prime one. You know, Adam's always been somebody that, you know, they've always put something strong out there, and then I think once you get a grade A and you think, well, the pressure's off, you can wind it back a little bit, and you don't need to be as pressured on what you do with your squad. I mean, I don't know what he's spending, but anybody can only guess, can't they? But people think it's less than previous. The very day that I did all my financial rearrangements to get what was then at that time 15 points, Chesney rang me and said he'd done the deal with Moylan. You know, and I said, you don't need to do the deal with Moylan, mate. We've got 15 points. We're fine. We don't need to be worried about winning. Which obviously I still did do the deal with Moylan, but you kind of get the point.
So do you think this season's a bit of a free hit for some clubs, and do you think ultimately the test will be in the second season, won't it, to see if clubs then go spend up to salary cap and really go for it, because it is a bit of a transition season.
Yeah, and I mean, if you actually look at the situation now, we're one win, and our game in hand that we've not played against Wigan, who, in my opinion, are the best team in the comp at the minute. So. But I'm not sat here nervous, worried, that we could end up getting relegated for, not just because I've got a good enough squad and we're struggling with what we're able to put on the field at the minute, but because I know I can get 15 points with IMG.
Yeah, so, and I wonder, does the investment that's come from supporters and the businesses who are supporting the club, I suppose that gives you an added responsibility to invest back into the club to justify the support that they're giving you, since getting promoted to Super League and then obviously on the back of the Challenge Cup victory.
Yeah, it does, but I mean, ultimately, I just want to win. So I do it because I'm a fan myself, and I want us to win. I want to one day win Super League. I want to one day win a grand final. It's a dream to win the Challenge Cup. We've done it. It's a big effort to try and defend that. Probably none bigger than having to come to your gaff again. But I think as long as people are true to themselves and they want to win, then they will invest in the club. Clearly, our fans are investing in it, and our sponsors, and commercially we've grown a lot, which means a little less pressure on me. But I can look at other areas like the academy and reserves and women's, etc. We've got all of those going as well now, which we didn't have. So the more investment we get in, the better. But winning definitely takes care of everything, and we're starting to feel a bit of tension around our place from our fans, as you would expect. And you look and you think, well, maybe come to OKR and we're missing players. Everybody misses them. I don't like to complain about that. Your squad's there to. It's disrespectful to the players that are taking the place, but you have your best players that are regarded that for a reason, and any team that's stripped of 4 of what was in the dream team is going to struggle. So you guys are in fine form, scoring loads of points. Last time we come there, we got ourselves asses handed back to us, didn't we, with a big score line. So it's all on the cards. I've no doubt you're all feeling pretty confident over there, and looking forward to getting us with a little bit of a limp, I bet.
Yeah, and I'm not buying into anything you just said, because I remember when you very first came on the podcast, there was some sob story about Lee and about the mighty Hull Kingston Rovers and how and then what happened? You went and got the victory. So I ain't buying into anything that you say now.
We end up with you guys in the cup a lot, though, don't we? I think near enough. It's hard to think of a year when we've not come across you guys in the cup. But I think it's a great tie, though, don't you? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a rerun of the final. I think on both of our days, I think that it is a 1 point either way game, isn't it? Both teams. I just think home advantage is significant, and I thought that's what was in that playoff game as well. I think if we'd have got that, I was speaking to 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏 after it at Old Trafford, and he was of a similar mindset that he felt whoever got the home tie on it got the advantage, and I do genuinely think that's the case now. But I've scrambled anyway, mate. We've just signed Dwyer for the rest of this year and next. Took over his contract so that he can grace the field. So we won't be coming with our tails between our legs. We'll be coming having a go. You can rest assured about that.
Yeah, and Willie Peters mentioned in his pre-match press conference yesterday, there's a bit of a nice mini rivalry between the two clubs at the moment. I don't think you call it a friendly rivalry, but a healthy rivalry, and I suppose us both sides being drawn against each other in the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup is the TV dream as well, isn't it? That's a great game for them to be able to put on an almost prime time Saturday tea time viewing. It is building up to a really exciting game on Saturday.
That's great for both clubs, that, isn't it, as well, and all our commercial partners. So that can only be great for the sport and great for us growing. I think like friendly rivalry, or there's obviously face the competitive nature between both teams, and the fans get vocal and get stuck in there, and we've all got our hardcore ones of them. But I do genuinely think it's two friendly clubs, Neil Hudgell, and two clubs that are making noises for the right reasons, probably in the way that they are going and the way that they are growing and developing. So it's good to see us clash again on the field. And as you say, the TV take it on the prime spot as well at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. I reckon we'll get quite a few people watching it. I just hope it's not a tough day at the office for me sat in there, because it's a tough place to come even as an owner and sit in that stand, because you guys don't have to know how to dish it out in there.
Yeah, and of course you'll be pleased that you're able to view the game and you don't have to follow it on Twitter as well.
That's for sure, mate, as well, definitely. I might have to have a day off the beer, I think, that day.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of the Challenge Cup? Obviously, you're the holders. You know, if you believe some people, you'd think the competition's dead and buried. I don't buy into that. I think it's still renowned around the world. But I mean, we saw with the coverage of the last round, it wasn't great, was it? In terms of the coverage we got from the BBC and the exposure it got. It's a difficult one, isn't it, to sort of reimagine, because ultimately, if you put the Super League clubs in lower down in earlier rounds, the amateur clubs, the League One Championship, they're going to suffer as a result. So it's a difficult one to try and, I don't know, I want to bring back to life, but difficult to do something with.
It is, but I think we're guilty of allowing broadcasters to downvalue our sport and tell us that it isn't worth what we think it is, and that just needs some strong front, if you will, or leadership to respond to that and say, no, this is what it's worth. And I think, you know, if we can keep building this Super League Plus streaming platform and we can add more content to that, you know, we should be doing things like, you know, for example, when we've got Asiata up on a charge, you could actually do that live on Super League Plus and let people see what goes on. Let people see how the case is presented by the RFL, how it's defended. People can have opinion on it. You could even have a pundit or two running over it at the end, and fans could have a phone in and stuff. We could assess the referees positively and negatively, look at something around that, get that touchscreen thing, what Sky seemed to dismiss with John Wells on the create loads of content. So that's the go-to place that you would want to buy or watch your rugby league rather than Sky. And then they can see when you've got that number of followers, we can actually monetize that with adverts. That, you know, all of that commercially can just be grown so much more. And I think, you know, with the Challenge Cup, people say it's lost its magic, don't they? But I think last year proved it's not, because we won it after 52 years, and it's like, what was it, 40 years since you guys were last there, and you're taking it seriously to win it. I think anybody who does seriously enjoys it. I think what we could do with it is we could do something similar to what they do in the women's game. So you could have sort of, if you took, say, your top 8 Super League, I've always believed the game's probably 2 12s or maybe even 2 10s. If you take your top 8 Super League sides that finished 1 to 8, and then you take your next 8 sides in terms of positioning, so 4 and 4, and then your third lot of that into the Champ 1, and create some mini round robins of 3 and draw it out that way, so that the Super League club has to play away against the lowest ranked team, so that then there's going to be some kind of commercial money spin-off for them on a gate, maybe. And there is that little bit of potential, because you are creating potential giant killings. They might not happen, obviously, because it's a big ask, but you're creating the potential for it, and you're adding more games to the competition. I think that's something that could be looked at.
Yeah, I wonder, Derek, do you reckon there's appetite amongst other owners and maybe head coaches and players for more games? I mean, from a commercial point of view, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, sorry, I wouldn't say we need to be playing more games. I'd be getting rid of those league fixtures straight out of there. So, you know, you just get straight down to, I'd reinvent Magic as well. I'd get rid of that, because, you know, I wouldn't get rid of Magic as in get rid of Magic. I'd have the event, but it would be something like a 9s comp, where you play numerous games over the 2 days that make it on a bank holiday weekend, so that, you know, people can go up there and they're not having to go back on the Sunday night. You could even invite a rugby union side or 2 into it. You know, you just put a prize pool in there for first and second or something like that, and create that as a separate comp, and then you just have a straight home and away traditional 1 game against each club at home, 1 game away. and your Challenge Cup can put those other fixtures in that some owners are not wanting to lose for the income side of things. And then the other thing with the Challenge Cup as well, if you've got that stability of knowing those games in the early part, you can include them in your memberships as well, and then that way you'll get some better attendances for them.
Yeah, and Derek, you're not afraid to say what you think. I think at the start of March you'd said that you've been silent for too long, and then you had the Super League owners meeting. Did anything change as a result of that meeting?
Yeah, I mean, listen, to be fair, Robbix in particular, I think's a really good quality person in there, and he works tremendously hard, and a lot has been done and changed in and around behind the scenes. That's who I have my most contact with. Obviously, Tony Sutton's above that. So there's meetings going on in and around. I just think we need to use more of the skills within the sport from the various owners. We've got some intelligent, clever people in there, but we seem to want to flood it with non-executive directors that we're paying money for, and that I don't see what's produced. You've got to have a certain type of board round about Sport England and the government, etc. But people have got to produce their worth. If they're taking money out of the sport, they've got to be bringing more than that to it. That's just basic business. So I just think we're spent. If you look at what's being spent in that area, and then you look at what's being spent with IMG, then I just think there's a hell of a lot of money there. What could be massively invested into Super League Plus, making that a great platform, and into marketing and growing the game. There's nigh on 700k, 750 grand there. What I don't see what we're spending effectively or producing. So if it was my business and I was spending 750k in that area, I'd be doing something about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in tied up in off-field stuff, and like you said, it's about proving the worth. I just saw, I think before we came on to speak, about how the RFL are losing three-figure sum every season owning Owdsell, and they're not able to get rid of the lease on there, and there's some bad decisions that seem to get made that to the bloke on the street, the woman on the street, just don't seem to make sense sometimes.
Yeah, I think if we utilise the strength of the clubs, and not just Super League clubs, there's some good people in and amongst other clubs, and you look at in and around there, people, might not like Nigel Wood from when he was in and around at the RFL, but personally I have a lot of time for him. I think he's a highly intelligent person, and he brought the sport the biggest ever TV deal it's had, and I don't think he'd be sat saying, oh yeah, we appreciate it's going to be worth a lot less, and led to believe we've done well getting 21.5 because they told us it's only worth 17. That's like me telling someone my deck's only worth £1,000, and then I've done well to get 1,500 for it. The sport is worth what it once was worth, and it gets less than half of what it did. So it needs something doing about it, and I think that people are within the game at the clubs who can significantly help do it.
Yeah, and we mentioned about the Challenge Cup final last season. You boys will be desperate to retain that. Winning it's one thing, isn't it? To retain it as well, that'd be a massive achievement.
It's 52 years apart. We won it in 21, 71, and then 23. Joe minus COVID, COVID 21. So it's kind of like 50 years apart. It's a massive ask to back it up. I think there's only 4 or 5 clubs ever done that. When I was looking at it on the trophy, so that'd be huge. And I won't make no secret about it. I'll be not sick if you guys turn us over at your place. But then at the same time, I've got a lot of mates who are Robins fans. That's why I'm always happy to come and have a chat on here. I think a decent club, and so as much as not me for sick losing, I'd kind of also be pleased that you guys get a chance to go and do it, because the way you lost it was horrible, really. It wasn't any way to want to see lose a game. So if you did beat us, I'd want to see you go on and win it.
Yeah, that's sport. You can't always pick how you win and lose, can you? And I suppose that's the beauty of it. We're going to probably see two of the best halfback partnerships on Sean Saturday. I mean, Moylan, what a fantastic coup it was to bring him over. Experienced NRL player. Lamb, of course, we know what he can do. Pitting the wits against Mikey Lewis and Tyrone May. I mean, it does promise to be a real entertaining game of rugby. I mean, how important has Moylan been to you guys, and obviously Lamb as well, continuing where he left off last season?
Yeah, it's. I mean, he had the game and a half out with the mess to his knee. So they've not had a lot of time together. Pre-season was a little bit disjointed in terms of the overseas players being away, Lammy playing for PNG, and then the time that we got Moylan here. So it was only kind of around the camp. So it's something that's getting better week on week. Is that partnership, and I do think a lot will be determined in that game by how that goes. We hopefully get some fire back in the forwards. We had Malone, and we've had Amon out for a while, and we had Malone out last week as well. So I'm hoping that those two names can be back on the team sheet. We've signed Brad Dwyer now, so that gives us that additional push there from 9 while Edwin's still out the race. But I do think Lamb and Moylan need to have a really big game, and in particular a decent kicking game as well, because we know what May and Lewis can do, and you've got pace from out there, and then you've got your threats on your edges as well. So you've got to not kick that ball to Ryan Hall, but for some reason people keep doing it, and it drives me insane. I'm like, just don't kick the ball to him. But no, I think it'll be a game with points in it, because both teams are definitely attacking. We've not quite been nailing as many as we'd like at the moment, and we're certainly conceding more than we would be happy with. So I know we'll be trying to tighten that up, but it's easier said than done. You can look at what Lewis and May and the rest of your boys do and know what's coming, but defending it is a different matter. And then that kind of atmosphere that you create in there, it's probably, I would go as far as saying I think it's the hardest place to go and get a win is Hull KR.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've lost at home since July last year. So they've got a great record at the moment, and we are really making that Craven Park into a bit of a fortress. So, it's always been a tough place to play, but I think in the past teams have been able to come away with cheap victories, whereas we seem to be shutting up shop at the moment. I suppose, lastly, Derek, we owe you a bit of thanks for bringing Oliver Gildart over early. I remember at the time a few Rovers fans raised eyebrows at that, but I do think him coming home early and settling himself back in, I think we're getting the dividends of that now, because he's someone who's, he's missing on Saturday's HIA again, so hopefully he gets well soon. But yeah, he's hit the ground running at the Robins, and I do think it's down to you boys bringing him over early.
He's a good lad, mate. I told you last time he's a good player. He's a good bloke. He's a good pro. He's got speed and good agility, and he can find the line. So that's why he's doing a decent job for you. I didn't know he had a HIA. So who else have you got missing? Anyone else?
Sam Luckley. They're the only two missing. So Gildart, it's second game in a row he's missed due to HIA, and then Sam Luckley 1 match suspension. Other than that, we're pretty much at full strength. Oh, and of course Ben Reynolds, he's missing. He's cup tied, a player that you're familiar with.
Yeah. No, Ben well, but I don't think he'd be getting it. I think that's more of an insurance one for you, isn't it? Really, to be honest, when you've let his name's gone. Abdul, go over to Catalan. So you just needed that bit of a backup there, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And the Robins are, I think they are desperate, like yourselves, to get back to Wembley and hopefully right a wrong and come away with a trophy. But it starts on Saturday, and like I said, Derek, hope you have a safe journey over. Enjoy the game.
Yeah, will do.
Get a warm reception.
Yeah, you'll definitely give me that, mate. There's a few people in there. I don't mind having a bit of banter, but it's all good faith, mate. And may the best team win. And I hope whoever does win goes on and wins it. Yeah,
and one last question. If people listening to this on podcasts, they won't be able to see you, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that you're in leopard print. Is there any day you don't wear leopard print?
Mate, not so often. I'm full kit wanker today, so rocking down the boat. And last night was formal night, so I had not the Wembley leopard suit on, but a different leopard jacket. Yeah, so been having a crack round here with a few people, but you'd be surprised how much leopard print's on here.
Joe,
mate.
as ever, always appreciative to hear from
and black
Derek
and
Beaumont.
white
He's not
yesterday.
afraid to
Also,
say
believe
what
it or
he
not.
thinks,
I resisted
what he
the
wants. I
temptation
mean,
of having a
obviously, he's a
chat with
character
him.
and he provides a lot of Super League, supporters of Super League teams and fans of the league. To be honest, though, Derek, I bet there's
but
plenty
I
of
just
leopard
found
print,
him
but I bet it's
entertaining
more
no matter what he
bikinis and
says.
budgie smugglers than
I
it
think
is
he's the one that
full
he's
suits.
worth listening to,
Well,
even
yeah,
if you're not his biggest
you're
fan.
spot on, mate. There's plenty of
Yeah, he's a bit of
stuff
an
about
enigma, isn't he? You don't know what you're going to get with him. I don't agree with some of the stuff he does, but
yeah,
I understand he's great for exposure, and he's always been good. Obviously, when me and you hosted the pod, he came on. Obviously, you've kept in touch with him, and that's so he's always up for a chat. And yeah, even though there is that little bit of rivalry between the Robins and the Leopards now, he has always got time for Rovers as a club. But yeah, he's a bit like Marmite, isn't he? Sometimes old Deza.
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say is, whatever he says, and I think half his problem is he says it when he's had a beer. But he's got a very successful business. He owns a Super League club. You know, he's doing something right. So he's got a leopard skin Lamborghini, which of course we all want. So he must be doing something right.
It must be. It's not better than my 𝗪 though. I might paint it red and white on Saturday and park it next to his. See how many photos I get with man.
Joe, it's great to have you back on the Robin pod. I mean, it seems a long time ago. It was only last week. The Robins, 50 points to 10 victory over London, 40 points to 4 up at half time. It went the way we all predicted, although some supporters frustrated that we didn't capitalise in the second half and build on that 40-point lead that we got at the half time. But I don't know. Although the scoreline suggests it was a one-sided game, if you was there watching it, London, to their credit, made it very competitive.
Mate, they did, and it frustrated me, and I know it's probably frustrated you when fans were saying they was frustrated themselves. I mean, you can spin it two ways, can't you? You look a few days prior when Wigan did that against Lee and put the Q on the rack. Everyone was going, that's the sign of a good team. Rovers do it, and it's they take the foot off the gas, and they're not interested in the second half, and they'll struggle against the big teams. I don't believe in that narrative. Look, as a professional rugby player, Rovers did the job in that first half, and you know what? They played some absolutely outstanding stuff. Forget who the opponents were. This is a London team that's ran a few teams close. Yeah, they're still a million miles away from Super League level, but they posted 24 points on Wigan. They should have beat Hull FC. They've had a dig against other teams. And you know what? They had a go at Craven Park, didn't they? But Rovers were just too slick in attack. And yeah, it was frustrating that the second half we only scored 2 tries. At the time, I probably came out thinking it could have been 60, 70 that. But it's 2 points at the end of the day. The last 4 weeks, we've absolutely annihilated everybody that stood in front of our way. You know, even going the Huddersfield game as well. I know that was only a 12-point win, but we dominated them on the pitch. And yeah, it's about time people just, get used to that. The job was done, and would have all loved to have seen them at 60, 70, 80, but that's not what Rovers are doing. They're grinding teams out in the first half, they're putting on a show, and in the second half, they're mixing it up. I mean, you only have to look at what the third team was at the full-time whistle and who they took off and who Willie had put in different positions. It was a very pre-season vibe wanting that second half, and it was just great to get the 2 points. I thought Rovers played really well. Everyone's ticking along nicely now. I know we'll speak about the combinations and that soon, but yeah, thoroughly enjoyed some of the tries, but hats off to London. They give it a go. You do feel a bit sorry for them sometimes, but they're enjoying the ride, and they'll be peeved off that they got hammered at Rovers because their coach, 𝗦𝗂𝗀𝗆𝗆, I don't know if you've listened to it, mate, but his post-match presser, he's not one for going, yeah, we had a dig. He was fuming with that first half performance, and there was obviously going to come out and give it a show. So yeah, another 2 points on the board. We've got bigger and better opponents coming up, but you can only play what's in front of you.
Yeah, and I suppose that frustration that some supporters felt was on the back of the Derby victory, where we conceded some points in that second half, and we never really got going in terms of our attacking rugby league. But I suppose the point is, though, Joe, the game was never in doubt, was it? It was the result was never in doubt, and I don't want to say arrogance, but like London did against the Robins, they kept plugging away. They kept going despite the scoreline, and they are difficult to play against, regardless of how many points you've already got in the bag.
They are, and I don't care what anybody says from a Rovers point of view. Of course, they wanted to come out, and in the man they're going, and Willie will say in the post-match, we don't want to take our foot off the gas stuff, but it's natural as a player when you come out in the second half and the wind's blowing at Craven Park and you're 40 points to 4 up, whatever it was, there is going to be a hint of complacency. There is going to be a hint of, look, the job's done, let's kick it into touch, get a complete our sets. And that's what Rovers were doing. I know there was a few mistakes, but it wasn't like there was throwing out the backsides but they turned into a team that couldn't attack. They turned into that grind, into that NRL style rugby that Willie likes when it's just kicking it up, defending, getting some defence practice in as well. So for me, I have no qualms with what they've been doing in the second half against Hull and against London. You know, the Salford game, they turned it on in the second half because they knew there was against better opponents and they knew the game wasn't dead and buried there, and they ended up putting another 3-4 tries on, didn't they, in the second half, whatever it is there. And I imagine the same will happen in the coming weeks. You know, obviously I'm not expecting 40, 50 points against our next few opponents, but, you know, if Rovers are in control, there is going to be that more intensity and it is going to be a little bit different. But I think fans have got to understand when the bigger teams, and I'll put Rovers in that bracket, like Wigan have been, like Saints have been at times this year, even Warrington, when they're coasting, they do take the foot off the gas a little bit. That's just natural. It's frustrating to watch, but it is just natural as a sportsman.
Yeah. And few changes in personnel, most notably Ben Reynolds making his Hull Kingston Rovers debut. He started on the bench, as did Corey Hall. And we also Louis Senior lining up on the right edge. I mean, if supporters were at the open training session, the captain's run that they held the day before, they will known that they were pretty much shoehorned into play. As you'd have noticed as well, that 𝗀𝗃𝗏 was going to be rested because his involvement was limited at the captain's run. And I suppose the changes, I mean, the Reynolds and Corey Hall, when they came on in the second half, they did, I don't know, we looked a little bit clunky, didn't we? We just seemed to be. And then, of course, James Batchelor going to 13 as well. It did affect the flow of the game. But, you know, like I said, the game was won and it was good for them to get some minutes on the pitch, although I don't think either Reynolds or Hall really did too much to impress upon us. But it was good to see him out on the pitch in the first place.
Yeah, it was. I think you can add Louis Senior into that, can't you? You know, I don't want to call somebody out on that, but I don't think he'll be in the 17 this week. You know, he had a chance, didn't he? And I don't think he really took it. Whereas Corey Hall and Ben Reynolds, probably you're in there because it's their time to have a bit of game time, like you mentioned. And I do see something in Corey Hall. And I think people are quite quick to slam him. And the kid's only 21. I know Willie always bangs on about that. And I don't think he's found his feet yet, his position. I'd like him to go to Featherstone and play in that division because I feel like he hasn't gone there yet, has he? Because he's been on the periphery of our side. Ben Reynolds, yeah, it's always tough coming in as a halfback when your team's coasting. And, you know, I don't think he wanted to pass, did he? He must have had a few quid on him to score because he seemed to dummy every time he go near the line. But yeah, he'll be grateful for the minutes because, again, he's not going to get any, again, for a few, you know, however long many games it is with Mikey and May stay fit or suspension free, touch wood, that's till the end of the season. But yeah, it's always nice to see some fringe players get some minutes, and we're in a position now where we can use them in a Super League game and not be panicking too much and going, oh my God, we're having to play the A, B and C now. It's all right, yeah, we've got London, but A, B and C, we know the standards they've got to set. They know they've got to hit them standards, and if they don't, they'll be pulled next week. And I think that's the beauty of this Rovers team under Willie Peters, and the beauty of this Rovers team with the depth they've got this year. There's people waiting in the wings, and there's people nowhere near the side that a few years ago would have killed to have in the side.
Yeah, and I mean, Corey Hall, he's impressed upon Willie Peters in pre-season, hasn't he? Willie Peters has tasked him with trying out a different position just to give him more opportunity to play. I mean, we're stacked up in the centres, aren't we? So you'd imagine Corey Hall's opportunity to play is limited there. The fact he's now trying him at second row gives him another opportunity to claim for the jersey. So I suppose, you know, his place on the bench was reward for that. And I think a lot of people as well, what surprised me is how tall he is as well. You know, and if anyone's watched the Newcastle game, NRL game, and seen 𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏 downstorming his way through. He's like the rangy leggy kind of. You don't see many of them players in Super League, but they're hard to tackle out, they're hard to bring down. So yeah, let's see where it goes with them.
Yeah, you know, he is one for the future, and it's great that he's getting minutes now. But like I said, I'd love to see him go on loan to Featherstone. I'd even like to see him, like Reece Butler did, even go play for London a few games this year. He's going to be a good player, but he's a few years away from this team. He probably knows it, but it doesn't mean. I think in rugby, especially in the UK, you get this idea, don't you? Because if they're not playing every week and we haven't got this reserve system, you think, oh, they might as well get rid of him and that. Whereas with the likes of 𝗀𝗲𝗏, he's 3-4 years down the track. Could be Rovers' next centre or Rovers' next back rower. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. Just hope he can get, like Leo's doing at Featherstone, like 𝗀𝗂𝗍𝗏𝗏 is 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, just get as many minutes. I'm a big advocate of it. Get as many minutes away from Craven Park in senior rugby, and then when you're ready to come back to Craven Park, you'll have them experience and minutes under your belt.
Yeah, 9 tries scored against the Broncos. 𝗦𝗢𝗢𝗡𝗏 with a hat-trick. James Batchelor with 2. Hiku again, Mikey Lewis. Hall, Tanganoa. I mean, like you've already mentioned, some of the rugby league in that first half. I mean, you know, exceptional attacking, speed, skill. You know, everything that as a rugby league support you want to see. You know, and the fact it was Hull Kingston Rovers who were producing that was great to see. I think Mikey Lewis was pivotal as well. I think his game seems to have gone on to another level since last season, since the England call-up, and probably a hard pre-season. I know for a fact he was doing extra work. Even when I think it was announced Mikey Lewis would be coming back a little bit later, he wasn't. He was still working. Yeah. He just wasn't with the main group. So, you know, he was pivotal to that first half display of probably total dominance.
You run out of words, don't you? And again, you're careful because you know the opponents are and that. But it does this every single week. Yeah, he's great that he's here. He's great that he's had a long-term deal. And him and I don't know if you've listened to it yet, but Willie was the guest on BBC's podcast. It's worth a listen. Willie goes in depth on Mikey and certain 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 players. And what he said about him is, he said he's become a man since that England camp. He said he's not this erratic young boy anymore. He said he's at training, he's reading, he's banging to his photography, he's taking a more calm and composed at life, really. And he said that's helping him on the field. He's a lot more talkative. His communication skills are growing all the time. And yeah, the world, the sky's the limit for him, isn't they? I hope it's in red and white for as long as possible. And I hope we can keep him throughout his career, because I always say it, I didn't at first, and I've changed my mind, you know, as the years have commenced. If he keeps going the way he's going, and this team keeps going the way he keeps going, he can be one of the best that's ever pulled on this shirt. If he can have the longevity and go for an extra 10, 12 years at 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏 and keep producing these performances and getting better, and hopefully in a winning team that's picking up silverware, there's no reason why he won't be dubbed one of the best, because he's got all the potential. And I think everybody, not just in Super League, in the world, probably knows it now. And it's great that he's, you know, at Rovers.
He's got a great foil in Tyrone May as well, hasn't he? I mean, people talk about 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 playing rugby league in a dinner jacket. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, Tyrone May is like James Bond at the moment. He's untouchable almost.
He is. I love. Obviously, Campo came on the pod, didn't he? But I think, you know, no disrespect to him, I think Tyrone May has done more in these 7-8 games than Campo did in 2 years at Rovers. But yeah, I couldn't really get my head around Tyrone at the first few games of the season. I was like, has he ever trained with this team? But you know, when you take a step back and you look back at what he does, not just in attacking defence, yeah, he's perfect. He's perfect for Mikey Lewis. And obviously there was questions asked at the beginning of the season with a halfback dilemma and what was going to happen at 𝗀𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏. And I think Willie's proven why he's invested into Tyrone May. So calm, so collected on the ball, and I think he's every single week's getting a little bit more into it, a little bit more. I know if he was any more laid back, he'd fall asleep on the pitch, but I think he is more. He's invested in this club now, and he seems to love it. He's very vocal on his Instagram and that. And Tyrone May and Mikey seem to have a good bond off it as well, which is always great. And yeah, this halfback partnership, if it can tick and it can hit new heights, then this Rovers team can do whatever, because they both complement each other and they're both on the day world class.
Yeah, and I did notice Hull Kingston Rovers lone plower Jordan Abdul suffered an injury.
Yeah,
you know, and it's almost like 6 rounds in, 7 rounds in, you get to April, you see exactly what he can do, and then, you know, picks up an injury, misses a few weeks, and it just goes on that spiral of in and out. And I think this is, you know, the performances put on by May and Lewis means Willie Peters was fully justified. And in what he did. I mean, at the time, obviously people questioned it, but yeah, here we are now.
Yeah, of course, and obviously you don't wish an injury on a person
No.
at all, but it's not a we told you so. It's nothing like that at all. It is just a case of this has happened 4 times for Rovers, and unfortunately, Jordan is an absolute unbelievable player. But I think it was his hammy again, wasn't it? I didn't watch it. I was out on Saturday, but apparently it's his hamstring. He's not in the Catalans 21. Steve Mack will do his presser soon probably and say the injury update, but it didn't look good. And yeah, I think it's good that Rovers' halfbacks are clicking as well. Because if at the start of the season, if Abdul had been winning these man of the matches like he had been in the south of France, and May and Mikey weren't quite working or was losing more than we was winning, then you know what the brigade would have been out, wouldn't they? But yeah, fully justified for what they did, and I think they complement each other, and there's a real good balance. And I'm really impressed with all the new signings, to be honest. I think they've all been brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned balance there, Joe. I think Derek Beaumont, he said when I spoke to him, why do people keep kicking it to Ryan Hall? Why do the teams keep doing it? Because he's so devastating, isn't he? He's the leading Rovers players for meters made. Why people still keep doing it? But this season, and you mentioned balance, we are so much more balanced, aren't we, on the right and left, and we can go both sides, and our attacking prowess is equal on the left and the right.
They are, and I think that's probably credit to like Joe Burgess as well. I think since he came in, I think he's been great. You know, he's meters out the back play as well. You don't realise how many meters we are making through the likes of Hiku, Tanganoa, Jesse Sue's up to his game. And when you watch games, I think the Salford Cup game, the Hull game, obviously the other Hull game as well in round 1 and the most recent one, there's not a moment where there's even like an attacking, apart from London's tries and the odd FC one, the one they got through Cam Scott, there's not a moment where you think they're going to concede as well. They're just strangling teams. It is very NRL style. We'll do 4 drives, try something fancy. If not, if we don't score, it's absolutely fine now. Gone are the days of panicking on the last and trying to throw it out your backside. They will if there's something on, try something out of nothing, but more times than not, Mikey's kicking games very aerial now, so is Tyrone May. And the second the fullback or the wingers catch the ball, who's there? 3 or 4 Rovers players. They love defending, they love winning the territory battle, and we've seen it so many times through the likes of Elliot Minchella and Batchelor now. Whenever they force an error or they complete a set, they celebrate like it's a try, and that is what you have to do to be in that top echelon of Super League or the NRL. Defence wins matches, and that's why Rovers are nearly at the top of the tree at the minute with the likes of Warrington and that, because they're the teams who enjoy it without the ball as much as with the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we are second in Super League for tries scored. So I know people are frustrated. We aren't putting 100 past London, but we're still scoring plenty of tries.
Yeah.
One thing that did improve as well, Joe, against London was our kicking game in terms of conversions. Mikey Lewis, 7 kicks. I mean, don't get me wrong, the players helped him a lot in terms of where they placed the ball down, but he still did have some difficult kicks. And if you'd have watched that game and you'd never seen any of Rovers games before and he was kicking, you'd have thought he'd have been kicking all season. Very confident. He puts his foot through the ball, doesn't he? He doesn't leave anything to chance. He don't float it in. He puts his foot right through it. And, you know, obviously Jez Litton was missing, so he wasn't kicking. But I can't see anything other than Michael Lewis continuing with the kicking duties.
Yeah, I've never got when Willie says we don't want the pressure. We don't want to add pressure on him. This is the kid who's the coolest kid in the stadium who absolutely soaks up pressure and adversity. I think he'd love taking on the tee, and I think, yeah, obviously it was we had time, didn't we, when we broke through and we could cut inside a little bit. But like you mentioned there, he was slotting them from the touchline. The ones that he missed, I mean, kicking into that Craven Street end, even in the summer, there's a wind. Never mind on a cold night and that. And it's always tough to convert at Craven Park anyhow when it's windy and that, because of the way the ground's set out. But I agree with you. I think we've got to think now, haven't we, and be realistic and go, look, we've got 2 brilliant hookers in Jez Litton and Matt Parcell. They've both got to play at some points, but can you risk giving it to Jez and then if he comes off going, Batchelor's going to have to kick, because I know he kicks the one against Salford, but he doesn't look comfortable, does he, Batchelor, when he goal kicks? It's not for me in with a T. So for me, Mikey's on. He's the number 7. He's the dominant half. I think he's got to have given a go now, and especially in these high pressure situations over the next 4 or 5 games. Let's give him a go. Let's see how he can handle it, because he looks confident with the boot. And the beauty of a left kicker is there's not many around, and them little angles that right-footed kickers struggle with sometimes. I know you can use the other advantage, other argument, but I do like having a left-footed kicker as well for some reason. It just looks a little bit cleaner off the boot in my eyes.
Yeah, and they performed absolutely brilliantly against London. 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲 at the captain's run. I did pose this question on X about whether they do this all the time, but they presented Ben Reynolds with his shirt on the pitch. They all huddled together in the middle of the pitch and had a chat, and then Ben Reynolds got presented with his shirt. Also, 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲 was presented with something, and then on the screen in Craven Street, they put up a montage of his best moments at Hull Kingston Rovers. My question: are they doing this just because the fans are there, or do they do this all the time? And Jason Everton replied, says, no, they do it all the time. And it's really special because all the players were looking at the big screen, obviously celebrating 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲's 200th appearance, but also 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲 then gave a bit of a speech. And you could see how much it meant to him. And for him to come away with 3 tries against London, I mean, he showed how important it was in that game, but he's been a really integral signing and a real catalyst for change over the last few years with the Robins.
Yeah, I always said what was when Tim Sheens was in and that we just lacked so much pace around the ruck. And when we swapped Sean Lunt for 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲, I was like, oh my, how was this happened? And he was in a very poor team for a few years, wasn't he? But I think that's from 2021 when the team started finally getting a little bit better and a little bit quicker. He's just shone, hasn't he? And he's still up there in the top hookers in the league for me. I know I wouldn't say it's the writings on the wall at the moment, but you know, it's looking more likely with JWH coming over and that. I don't think I'm ready for him to retire, and if Ryan Alders as well, I don't think I'm ready for them two to go. But yeah, 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲, I think what he's done for Jez as well, they both complement each other so much, and I don't think Jez will have developed this quickly if he wasn't working with such a good player in 𝗕𝗂𝗡𝗴𝗲. But yeah, I did a few obviously captain runs last year, with the press conferences when I was obviously at 𝗀𝗡, and yeah, they always do that. Willie's big on making moments special. Obviously, we've seen the changing rooms when they've got the photos of the kids and the family and that, and what it means for them to play for Rovers. The sentimental value, that family feel, that's what they're massive on it, mate. And I think that's why this group are so close and why they're probably so close with the fans now, because everyone's connected. I know sometimes words and business jargon from Sewell and Lakin and all them lot can seem like words, but I don't think it is with these lot. I think they genuinely mean everything they say about being this one club and connected family, and hopefully that can transcend into something special this season or whenever the Willie Peters reign comes to. And I know you asked the question last week about the contract. I didn't give you mine, but for me, yeah, I'd give it a few more months first, but the way he's going, I'd like to see, you know, another 2-3 years for Willie Peters easy. I think what he's doing just is irreplaceable, really. And obviously, them lot across the river have just got rid of their coach, and you're worried about who's going to replace him. And look, there's not many people out there. That's the case with Rovers at the minute. You're not going to get any better than Willie Peters. So for me, there's a no-brainer. I know he's here till the end of next season anyhow, but he bangs on about how much him and his family love it in East Hull and living in Beverley and all stuff like that. And for me, it's a no-brainer if he wants to stay, you know, however long, let's give him it, sign him on the dotting line.
Yeah, I mean, it ain't just obviously what he's doing at Rovers. It is a life choice, isn't it? It's where his kids are. It's where he sees their future, and so it is much more than just a job. But you know, hopefully, you know, he does lead us to silverware, and you know, and we all pray that he does. He is going to become in demand, isn't he? So,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes, whether it's too early to start contract talks or not. Who knows? I mean, we can't let the Robin pod go past, Joe, without mentioning Agent Smith and Agent Jean and the fantastic work they've done in the dark side of Hull. Relinquished of his coaching duties to Smith and Stanley Jean. Now we can look back a bit more fondly at the time with the Robins and forget that bit where they went to pastures new. But, I mean, it's a mess, isn't it, for them? And I've said many times, long may it continue.
I'm quite disappointed because I wanted it to continue. Yeah, I think it will. Yeah, they are in a mess, and you know we can make all the digs, can't we, until the cows come home. But you know what? get a little bit bored now, don't you? But yeah, I think the writing was on the wall probably for them. It's just the manner that they're getting beaten. It doesn't matter who they are, you know. Obviously, we have a bit more of a thingy narrative because we're in the same city. But if that was a Castleford or a Salford or something, it's the way they're getting beat. Can get beat and they can get defeated sometimes, but it's the manner, it's the way they give up, it's just soulless. And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I hope it happens forever. But yeah, Phil B, you know, obviously he's been on the pod as well. His photo and his caption was Agent Smith and Agent Jean, mission complete, you can stand down. And I think that's where we'll leave it. So yeah, the job's done in the West Side boys, and we'll see where it takes them, and we'll see who's in charge.
Well, that leads us nicely into Saturday's Challenge Cup quarter-final against the Leopards, who have only won 2 games this season. One was against Featherstone in the previous round of the Challenge Cup. And, of course, their only other victory to date this season was against that lot.
Left side.
Yeah. So, yeah, it leads us nicely into it. I mean, we've already heard from Derek Beaumont. He's given his thoughts ahead of the game on Saturday. Obviously, Lee missing, you know, a number of important players. 𝗀𝗂𝗡𝗏, John 𝗪𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏, Tom Briscoe, Tom Anon, and Robbie Muller may be back on Saturday. They're going to give them every opportunity to play. You know, they've got Matt Moylan, Lachlan Lamb. You know, they've still got some big players in that side, but the squad isn't the strongest what it could be, and this is a great opportunity for the Robins to get to the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup.
Massive, and I think, yeah, Amon and Mulhern, I imagine it'll be one or the other. But to be honest, even listening to Adrian Lamb, he said, oh yeah, Amon is maybe... He's sped back a little bit quicker than we thought. He's recovered a little bit quicker. And I was thinking, is that just a case of going, come on, like, we need you back? Because their pack is decimated. And that's where I think this game will be won. You know, even if Mulhern and Amon are pushed and say, come on, you can play, even if you're 60%, the speed around the ruck and the way 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏's playing, Dean Adley will be back, won't he? Tangano or people like that, Minnie, you know, Minchella in and around that 13 role. I think we will dominate them in the pack, and that's what we've got to do. We've got to strangle them. We've got to stop Moylan and Lamb, who I don't think have been great. I think they're very just going and from side to side. They're not that free-flowing. I know last season there was a bit new, weren't they, on the block, and everything was going right for them injury-wise, and teams didn't really know how to play. They do now, and that's why Lee have got to change, and maybe that's why it's not working at the minute. They haven't adapted, but I'm really confident. You know, I put revenge when the draw came out, and it was probably just an emotional side of me putting that. But I do agree with what Willie says in some sense, where he goes, "We're not thinking about the final last year. It's a new team." But on the other hand, I think you are thinking about, you know, this is the team that caused us absolute heartbreak. Let's not put it lightly. And yeah, it was great beating them in the league and great knocking them out the playoffs. It still don't give us a trophy at the end of the day, does it? Whereas beating these puts us 80 minutes away from getting to Wembley again. And yeah, I think this team, this Rovers team, even the new lads, they'll understand that we should have probably won last year and we won't get a better opportunity. We've got to get back on the horse. We've done it against Salford. Let's go against Lee on Saturday, and it should be a packed Craven Park. The atmosphere's been great this season. East Stand absolutely bouncing. Even the North and West are getting involved. It's a good buzz around Craven Park at the minute, and I think it's going to take a very, very good team to come and beat us here again, you know, like Warrington did. Can Lee do it in the Cup with the decimated side and Rovers on form? For me, no, but we've still got to be on our guard because it's going to be a very tough game, and they've got nothing to lose, have they? They'll go into it as the underdogs, say nobody wins at Craven Park, use all them excuses. And yeah, I think if we can put them to the sword early, like we have done in the last 2 meetings after the Wembley game, then we should be home and dry at half-time again, fingers crossed, because I think the way that we're going at the minute, we're coming out of the blocks firing, and if we're on form, what I'm noticing is it's try. It's not try, 10 minutes, another try. We can put 18, 24 points on teams in the space of 5-6 minutes, and that can just kill you mentally and physically as well. So yeah, I don't change the game plan. Change me, obviously, bring people back in. Jez, Dean Adley, Joe Bear, just all come back in for me. But, you know, let's go at it again. Let's not stop here, because get through to the semis, and we've got a great, tough run in the league, which I'm buzzing for as well. Let's see where we're at against these so-called bigger teams.
Yeah, if you missed the squad news, which was announced early today, which is, of course, Thursday, Rhys Butterworth and Leo Tennyson, they come into the 21-man squad. Ben Reynolds drops out because he's cup-tied, and Sam Luckley misses out due to a one-match penalty notice. There's still no Oliver Gildart. He's missing. He's failed his HIA assessment or checked what he needs to pass to be able to feature. Joe Burgess, obviously, he missed the game against London, Joe. You'd imagine Burgess in for senior if Burgess is fit again. On the bench, who are you bringing in to replace Luckily? Probably Dean Hadley.
No, I think he'll go. I think he'll put Dean Hadley back in the back row with Batch,
right.
And then I'd put Staunton, Tanganoa, Parcell, and then either 𝗀𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 or Tennyson on the bench. That'll be my bench. Go big, and obviously Jessie Sue and Whitbread starting props.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because they've gone big on the bench. I mean, London, obviously, it was a different challenge, so the bench had a slightly different makeup. It is intriguing to see how we will line up, but the fact we've got Jez Litton coming back, we've got Mikey Lewis, we've got Tyrone Maybe attacking threat in that spine there. Never mind 𝗫𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who seems to be having the time of his life since going to fullback. I mean,
it's like he's played fullback for 15 years, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's played centre
for 10 years in the NRL, yeah. But no, them two look so much more confident, don't they?
Well, I mean, when they're attacking, and you can almost see it. Do you know when it goes into slow motion? You can almost see where the play's coming.
Yeah.
Especially on that right edge when 𝗫𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 fits in and then Hickle gets the ball. I mean, Burgess will probably say playing outside of Hickle was an absolute dream. And what Hickle does as well, because of his try-scoring exploits at the moment, he poses a question to the defence because now he's not just an offloader. He doesn't just pass it on. He's more than he's strong. And he's got a step, and he's more than capable of taking the ball himself. So I love seeing that right edge attack. And I mean, prior to 𝗀𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏's injury, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 coming in, I mean, the way 𝗀𝗬𝗏 and Hall were linking up together. But I said it on the last week's Robin pod. It's not bad, is it, when Tom 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is your replacement centre?
Nah, it's not, and that's the thing. I don't think Tom's been that great, and I'm quite upset that Gillies. Oliver 𝗀𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's not back this week, but hopefully he'll be back for the trip to Catalan next week. But yeah, another chance for 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 to stake a claim because I don't think he's got going yet. But yeah, I love the way 𝗫𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 just holds up plays. It's that little move inside. He straightens people up. Then he's got that elusiveness to just get by him, and his one-handed offloads are killing teams at the moment. And yeah, he looks like a great pickup, and he seems to be absolutely loving it. Him and his partner, he's had a few rubbish years, hasn't he, at Castleford, and I think he's come here and fell in love with the club quite quickly, and that always helps. So yeah, I think a big effort from the Span again, because on the day they're up there with the best in Super League. That Span, when they're in that attacking, free flowing moves that they're doing, it's like you mentioned, mate, it's a joy to behold. And I think let's do it again now. The standards will be raised for me because it's the biggest game of the season so far on Saturday.
Yeah, and I suppose, Joe, on Saturday, I mean, patience is key. I know we've scored points in the last few games, and like we were just talking about when Rovers do attack it, how good they can be. It's not going to happen every game, is it? There's going to be times, and Lee, yeah, they're missing a few players. That said, it's still going to be a tough encounter. So I think we need patience around Soul Group Craven Park, because we're not always going to be bang, 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 try. There's going to be times in games where it is difficult.
Of course, absolutely. And these are a good team. Let's not get too high on our horse and think because we've won a few games, we're going to absolutely clean the floor with everybody, because we're not at all. And yeah, what's after this? Catalan, Wigan, Saints, Warrington, Lee. These games, these are where you get in the ground, and you might win by 4 on Saturday, but this is knockout footy or rugby, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter how much you win by. It's if you get over the dotted line at the end of the day. But yeah, I think the Rovers fans will be. Like I said, there are going to be days where it's a little bit off and it's not going to be as free-flowing. And, of course, the opposition is getting a little bit better now. But, yeah, I think as their standards rise, Rovers should as well. And let's just wait and see. But, yeah, the Challenge Cup's massive for us, isn't it? 2 wins away from Wembley, get over the line on the thing, and you're looking at a semi-final date, probably at Headingley again and that. And, we know how famous that win was last year. So let's try and do it again and go better this time, because I want to have a day session in London, because I missed out last year writing for you all. And then having to write in tears as that number 7 who shall not be named, and I hope he doesn't do it again on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's when you put it into perspective. 160 minutes away from Wembley, 2 games and that's how you got to look at it. And it was I said to Derek Beaumont, it's the TV company's dreaming it. The finalists, last season's finalists going together. Tea time on Saturday, it's going to be. I love Saturday tea time games. Probably it's my favourite kickoff time slot. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm just looking, do you know what? There's a real buzz about going to Rovers. The fact that the crowds have been so good, I think one of Peter's already said we're sold upwards of nearly 7,000 for the game. You know, previous seasons, Joe, when we'd have got to this stage of the competition, you know, we wouldn't be expecting crowds of what we are. Obviously, season ticket holders have to buy tickets, and you know, I just love the buzz. When you go to Craven Park now, it feels not just more than the rugby, but it just feels like there's something special going on.
It's a popular place to come now, isn't it? And I mean, obviously, as you grow up and that, like, I've followed them all my life. But when I was growing up, there was me and my mates, and then in our age bracket, there weren't many. Whereas now you look at the secondary school kids and even the primary school kids, it is the hub to go to, this Craven Street, and go in the East Stand and sing a little respect. You know, like the full age bracket from top to bottom is just absolutely buzzing and aligned at the moment. And yeah, it feels like there is something brewing, and especially at Craven Park. You know, I love away days, barring the trips down the M62 when you're stuck in traffic for 4 hours. But there's now like Craven Park, and especially on a Saturday, let's make some noise. Let's show the BBC, you know, why, you know, this club's a little bit special, and we've got aspirations of going one step further this year. So yeah, it's great, the atmosphere at the moment and the full buzz around the club. And I know the players feel it too, don't they? Because you can just see after the game, the likes of Sam Luckley, Batchelor, Matty Staunton singing Red Red Robin, Rovers till I die. Little stuff like that. I know it sounds a bit daft, but not that don't happen at every club, you know what I mean? And yeah, I do think like this bunch want to prove a point, and I think that starts on Saturday against obviously the team that as last year. That, you know, that they won't be saying it in the sheds, but you know, in the stands, it is about revenging it, because we wanted to beat them last year, and they've got the upper hand, and you know, let's knock them out.
Yeah, Joe, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me on this week's Robin Pod Weekly.
No, anytime, mate. Great to be back on.
Yeah, which is, of course, powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. If you go into the game on Saturday, make sure you are loud and proud. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.